Sionigada, Justin McBride dagwato G jalagi jalagi ka wonhiste kayosle chiwonia kalielika chichiluki kohika wado tohijichu. I said, hello, my name's Justin McBride. I'm a Cherokee Indian, and I am very glad to be here with you all today. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much. I am a linguist, and I happen to also be the brother of your librarian, Mrs. Adams. Those of you guys who may know Alex Adams or Evie Adams, those are my nephew and my niece, and I'm awful proud of them. I love them to death, and they asked me to make a video for you because I can't actually be there on the day that you guys are having your festival. My college where I work has a meeting that day, and I really just can't miss it. I'm part of that meeting. But I hear that you guys have been reading a book that takes place in Tahlequah, and as it turns out, I work for a university that's in Tahlequah. I work for Northeastern State University, and there are three campuses for Northeastern State. There's one that's in Tahlequah, and there's one that's in Broken Arrow, and there's one that's in Muskogee. And I work at the Broken Arrow campus, but I also, on occasion, get to teach at the Tahlequah campus. The Tahlequah campus is very special to me and to Ms. Adams, my sister, because our mother was actually born on campus. When we were, I shouldn't say we because I wasn't around yet, but when my mother was a little girl, there used to be a part of Tahlequah that was reserved for a very large hospital called the Old Hastings Hospital. And after my mom was born there, later on, that hospital became part of Northeastern State University's optometry school. And so I can actually say that my mother was born on campus at Tahlequah. It's a beautiful, beautiful town. It's where my tribe, the Cherokee Nation, is headquartered. But there's another Cherokee group in Tahlequah too, called the United Kituwa Band. The United Kituwa Band and the Cherokee Nation, they're both Cherokee people. There are three federally recognized tribes that are composed of Cherokee people. So there's the two that are in Tahlequah. Cherokee Nation, United Kituwa Band of Cherokees, and then there's also an Eastern band that's located in North Carolina on the Qualla boundary. And so there's the Eastern Band, the United Kituwa Band, and then we have Cherokee Nation. I'm a member of Cherokee Nation. I'm not a citizen of the other two, but we're all Cherokees, and I think any Cherokee would say that we're all Cherokees. So that's kind of interesting to think about why the Cherokees are divided up the way they are. And part of it has to do with a forced removal that happened. As you may know, in the 1800s, there was gold discovered on the Cherokee Reservation, which at that time was in North Georgia, around a place called Delonge in Cherokee. And Delonge is the Cherokee word for gold as well, like the actual material gold. And the Cherokees lived sort of all around North Georgia there, and they were aware that the gold was there for a long time, but they started falling victim to people who were prospecting that gold. And at some point, everyone involved thought it would be better done. Well, there were differences of opinion on what should be done. The Cherokees thought we should keep the prospectors off our land, but the prospectors in the state of Georgia and ultimately the President of the United States thought that it would be better if the Cherokees moved far, far away, far to the west into what is now Oklahoma. And that's ultimately what happened. So the Cherokees were one of many tribes that were moved from their historic homelands, often at gunpoint, I hate to say, by the federal government to new lands in the West. And in my tribe, a good many of us didn't survive the journey. They say that there were 16,000 Cherokees at the time, and only 12,000 made it. So that means that out of every 4 Cherokees that started that journey, only 3 of them made it. So 1 out of every 4 died along the way. It was a very, very long journey, and it was oftentimes in very, very terrible weather. And so people just couldn't make it. The old, the sick, the young frequently didn't make it. And so when we got here, we sort of found out that not everybody made the journey. It turns out there was a band of folks that lived, they didn't live in North Georgia, they lived just a little bit farther north. They lived in far, far western North Carolina. And they were led by a man by the name of Wilusti, which means Little Bill. And Little Bill and his people, they decided instead of moving out to Indian Territory, which later became Oklahoma, they would instead just go take refuge in the mountains. And they moved far, far up into the mountains where nobody could find them. And they lived like that for a long time, far away from anyone else. And they didn't have anything. They just had the clothes on their back. Frequently they'd take a knife or a gun so that they could hunt with. And everything else, they had to just live off the land. His people, Wilusti's people, they still speak a slightly different version of Cherokee language than the Cherokee language that you hear here in Oklahoma, because they've been separated from us for a long time. We've been separated from them. I had the pleasure of having a teacher who grew up in Garloekte in Locust Grove, and he had a chance to go meet some of those Eastern Band Cherokees one time and speak Cherokee to him. And he said, I love the way they sound. He said, they sound so different, and yet they sound like they're speaking really good Cherokee. And so I've never had the occasion to speak Cherokee with someone from the Qualla boundary, but I would love to meet a Cherokee language speaker from North Carolina sometime and have a little chat with them. I think that would be great. The lands that the Cherokees got moved onto were actually quite large, as you may know. It encompassed most of what we would now think of as northeastern Oklahoma. And additionally, there was a long strip, and that long strip they called, and that Cherokee outlet went all the way out to where the panhandle begins too. And there was also a tiny little strip that went all the way across in southern Kansas, is what we call that now. We call that the Cherokee Strip. All of that stuff kind of went away at some point, and then the lands that were part of the Cherokee outlet got given to other tribes. And that's why there's a lot of tribes that live right along the north of Oklahoma. So you'll have folks like the Osages who live in Osage County, and then just on the other side of the Osages you have the Caws, and you have the Poncas, and then the Tonkawas are just down south, a little further west, and then the Pawnees are down there. All those tribes right around there lived in essentially what we would think the Cherokee outlet. And additionally, a lot of that land eventually became part of the land runs that brought non-native people into Oklahoma. And I think that's what you guys are talking about these days. You're talking about the land run and how that worked. There were actually, numerous land runs, but those land runs were they still are controversial among Native people today. When I say Native, I mean the same thing as Indian. A lot of Indian people call themselves Native Americans, and so Native, Native American, Indian, American Indian. A lot of those words are used interchangeably. Any rate, the land runs brought in people who were non-Indian into what we now think of as Oklahoma. But then it was just called Indian Territory. And it wasn't until many years later, actually, the early part of the 20th century, that Oklahoma later became a state. And by that point, there were probably more non-native people living in what would become the state than there were native people. So that's probably because of oil. Oil was discovered not long after all that began, and a lot of people came here looking for oil. And that's why a lot of folks in Oklahoma still have connections to the oil industry, and a lot of people made a lot of money in petroleum here in Oklahoma. So that's a little bit about Cherokees and their connection to the land run and the land here in Oklahoma. But it's not just Cherokees. A lot of people think, I think incorrectly, that that the Trail of Tears, as some people call it, was just about moving Cherokees from North Georgia to Oklahoma. But that's really not what that means. The Trail of Tears is actually more of an era, and it lasted for a long time. It lasted from the early part of the 19th century, 1830s or so, all the way up until the latter part of the 19th century, up until about 1880 or so. So it was about a 50-year period when a lot of tribes were moved. And the Cherokees weren't even the first. Actually, the Creeks, who had had some combat with the U.S. federal government, got moved as well. The Choctaws, and those folks had it. I mean, the Cherokees had it rough too, but man, those folks had it rough. Some of them they brought over in chains, that they wouldn't actually let them take their chains off, so they got marched wearing shackles. Cherokees, we didn't have to go through that, and I look to our native brothers and sisters in those other tribes, and I think, well, those folks really had to go through a lot to get here. So there's a pretty sad history there. And a lot of Native folks are still not very happy about it. A lot of Native folks are very unhappy about it, in fact. But one of the things that I think is interesting about it, and when it's all said and done, is that Oklahoma actually has one of the higher populations of Native folks per capita, which means per person, than any other place in the United States. In fact, Oklahoma has about 40 different Native American language groups that are spoken here, and that's more than any other state in the country. So it's likely that you could hear a Native American language spoken if you listen hard enough, because sometimes they're not spoken out in public very often. But you could hear 40 different languages, or 39 or so languages, all right here in Oklahoma. And I think that's interesting. Miss Adams and I we grew up in a town called Pawhuska. And Pawhuska is just go straight up I-35 from the Oklahoma City area, and then you turn back east and you go to you go through Ponca City, and you eventually go to Pawhuska. Now, where we grew up, that's where Osages are from. And so when I was a kid, one of the things that really stuck in my memory was that I got to see a time when there were quite a few Osage elders who could still speak the language at the time, and they got to meet with some French folks. The French and the Osages have had a very, very long relationship. It's stretched back to the old fur trapping days, way back when. And they still meet. And sometimes the delegation from France will send their people to Pawhuska, and sometimes a delegation from Pawhuska or Greyhorse or Hominy, those are the 3 Osage districts, will send a delegation back to France. And they'll go to Toulouse, France, or Montauban, France. And they've had this long-standing relationship for a long time. And I know Osages that spend a great deal of time in that part of Europe, in fact. And I know that we actually had a French person in our community in Pawhuska who would go back and forth quite frequently. I didn't even know her name. She didn't speak any English that I know of. She only spoke French, and everybody just called her Marie. But in Pawhuska, I got a chance to see one of these meetings. They call these meetings Occitanias. And I met some folks at that time when I was just a young guy from France, and I got to see these Osage folks who could speak back and forth in their language, and the French folks who could speak back and forth in their language. And when I saw that as a young person, I thought, what I want to do with my life. And that is sort of what I've done with my life. So I think we've had some talk about Osage language and some talk about Cherokee language now. But actually, the language that I speak best of all of the Native American languages is probably the Kaw language. And I thought it would be interesting to tell you a little bit about Kaw and a little bit about how I've been connected to the Kaw language. And then after this, I'll read some stories. I'll read one story in Cherokee, and then I'll read the same story in Kaw. Actually, I don't know if I'll read the one in Kaw. I think I'll have my Kaw language teacher read it. I had a recording of my Kaw language teacher from way back when. He's long since gone now. He's passed on. But I have this recording, and I think it might be interesting for you to hear my teacher, Dr. Robert Rankin, read that story in Kaw language. Although I could also read it in Kaw. I think it's cool to hear his voice. He has such a deep, dignified voice I don't have. And I'll read a story in Cherokee that my Cherokee language teacher taught me, and he's also gone. That was the late Bobby Joe Blossom. And he taught me Cherokee back in the 1990s. And I have some of his materials, including a story of his that will be very familiar to you. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the Kaw language. Kaw language is a language that is spoken nowadays by no one as a first language, but there are several people who still speak it as sort of a second language, people who are learning the language. And I'm one of those people. And I used to teach that language as well. I taught it from about 2001 to about 2010, and then I sort of took a few years off to go to school. And then I came back and taught it again in 2015. And I've long since maintained a working relationship with the Kaw people. So I've been close to that Kaw language community for, well, about 18 years now. And it means a lot to me. The Kaw people, they're also known as Kanza, also known as Kanza. Some people say Kanza, but in their own language, it's Ganze Nikashinga. And that word Ganze is actually where we get our word Kansas. The state of Kansas is actually named after the Kaw tribe, or the Ganze tribe. So the Kaw people are very closely related to the Osage people. And the Osage people, that's where my sister and I grew up. We grew up among Osage people. We're not Osage, but we have Osage members in our family, and all of our friends are Osage and whatnot. But we also, we have, of course, lots of Cherokee folks in our family. In fact, our grandfather was a first language Cherokee speaker. He didn't learn any English until he was a school-age kid, probably about your age, and didn't speak it very well until he was much older, actually. So we grew up sort of nestled between a number of language groups there in Pawhuska. The Cherokees were a little further east, and then Osages were right there in town. The Kaws are a little further west, and just a slight bit further west from that are the Ponca people. And the Kaws and the Poncas and the Osages are very, very closely related. Their languages are very closely related. And they're also related to another group a little further east, a group called the Quapaws, and then another language located much, much further north up in Nebraska, a language called Omaha. So those 5 languages, Omaha, Ponca, Quapaw, Osage, and Kanza, those languages, or Kaw, same thing, those languages are called Vegiha. And I study the Vegiha languages, and I speak some of them. So I thought I'd tell you this story in Kaw language. Again, I'm not going to tell you the story. I'll have my teacher tell you the story. But see what you think of it. I'm going to show some slides along with it, and you can figure out, I think, what story it is by just listening to it. See what you think.
Gashida, wasabe yable, jingahingami, iaje, ihonjo alabe, chihingami eji, ozolimbe. Hombami, ihonka, tani giohombe. Egoya jantaniche, Daka Jehualeka. Ihni Ioya. Ozo Omonya Yabe. Omonya ba Ioya. Shimihingami Pazuzihi Ayi. Wasabe Chicheta Hibe. Taniche Dombabe. Danyache Gonyabe. Iaje Tanita Daka Jehualeka. Ihon Tanita Ni Hualeka. Jingahinga Tanita Yalichaka. Pahuzihi Kansagi Taniche Yachabe. Alin Gonyaba. Iaje Alin Ita Gisagehti. Ihon Alin Ita Gistongahti. Jingahinga Alinta Gialicheka. Alimbego Oyoyaha Buhonyabe. Jinhe Gonyabe. Iajajan Gisagesti. Ihon ajan Gistongahti. Jingahinga ajan Gialicheka. Ajombe dan chlechte jant ebe. Gagojedan wasabe yabliaba ozotakan agube. Iaje Tani wita beya stabe egige. Ihon
Tani witaski bejasta babe.
egige. Jingahinga
Tani witaski bejasta babe. Tani stachtibe.
egige. Iaje Alin wita be alimbe Egige. Ihon.
Ali witashki bealimbe.
Egige. Jingahinga.
Ali witashki bealimbe. Tombohombe.
Egige. Iaje. Ajon Vita. Beajon Aba. Egige.
Aja witashki. Be aja aba.
Egige. Gahinga.
Aja witashki. Be aja aba. Don shoechi aja aba.
Wasabe Yabliaba. Gibako. Huwaleaba. Pazuzihi Ikiabe. Wasabe Shekran. Non pabe. Pazuzihiaka.
Oh, also, I have this Cherokee language version too, and I'll do the same story in Cherokee language, and it goes like this. So we walk, Janineha, Joyiga yon, Utan Edo yon, Taline Utan Eji yon, Ale Uste yon, Janinela Gatso de Howinya Inga. Sawusanale Eji yon Uwohlane Uditlek Ugam Sanale at Stai. Joyiga yon unat statlanod gaskilo at staiti, ale unanetane unigisti ugama. Adod yon nuese utan adiha hia ugam uditleki inga wideda idilucha. Ugam uithörla ig agisti. Nandikad yon unilose ingidihla. Skinaya sanale uste age huge talonge uste judohead. Uluche joiga yon junenasa. Juga ni ha galoste aseskin hla kilo yuotle. Talonge ustik ueliska ase galoste utsu ise. Ale sude. Ugohe ugam gaskelo gadu dislaha. Do you agiosi nuese? Juneltana ugam adodion dislitori. Uditleki gehe. Naulen uoneltane egion dislitori. Do you uhyatl gehe. Nahiu dalonge ustik uoneltane na ustion ditlistori. Hia ugamatoyu osi nudane. Nikad usane. Dalonge ustik uktenole ale dugohe joiga dikaskelo. Juoneltane utstartlatusti edodion ujele kaskelo. Aseskin agalandikehe. Jutstartlanahi egion ujeli kaskelo. Aseskin illadikehe. Nahiu dalonge ustik utstatlane ustion uskilo. Hia doju osigwu nudane. Tulgehi gosegia ale agia ditlaskinaya. Na uski kaskilo ujele squeeze de kahalaha. Dalonge ustik dusta yehi galaned katso de ditla lose. Ana dua tahe joiga de ganitle unesine adodion ujeli ganil stai gehe. Unisehe egion ujeli ganil wanihi gehe. Nahiu uoneltane ustion ujeli ganil. Hi aganil do you osigwu nuese. Flega dalonge ustik God. Na joiga yon uniluce june nasa unilose kaskilo atstaite. Ado jon nuese utan adiha kilos agiha aquacele. Egion nuese teline utan adiha kilo agiha aquacele. Na ustion nuese usti galanet adi kilo agihe ugama aquacele kes nog yagine. Adodion ugo tane kaskilo uchele kilo uvohle kaskilo aquacele nuese utan adiha kilo uvohlane kaskilo aquacele nuese egion taline utan adana uvohle kaskilo aquacele ale squeeze the kahalaha. Nuese ustion uyotle usti adeha. Nahiu na joiga yon galanatil gatsode unilose kilogan ganitl aquacele nuese adodion adeha. Kilogan ganitl aquacele nuese egion taline utan adeha. Kilogan ganitl aquacele ahanda nojikank. Da yuda ne ustion. Nahiu da longe ustik uyeji. Dugohe na joiga yon. Do yu asgahe skinayakehe. Atle la dineg udidahe kanihleg uno loste goloste dil. Messed that up. Yenur wuhlastane talonge ustik wutlastane juvenasaya. La ilahiu yiwu edole aninela na joiga yon. Of course, that's the story of Na Delonge Ustik Na Ale Na Joyiga Yon, and it was told by my teacher, and his name was Bobby Joe Blossom, but his Cherokee name was Ujil Dos. And so when he would say that story, he would always say Na Delonge Ustik Ale Na Joyiga Yon Ujil Dos Uno Hel, which means the yellow-haired girl and the three bears, as told by Ujildos, or as told by Bobby Joe Blossom. So I definitely have to say big wado to my old friend and my teacher Ujildos, who has since gone on, and he's a very important person in my life, and I want to him. So that's all the information that I have to share with you. But if you have any questions, please let me know, and I would happily answer any questions that you might have. Thanks very much. We'll see you all later. In Cherokee, when you say thank you to people, then you say wado, wado, wado. It's actually from another language. It comes from the Muskogee Creek language, or a language that's called Muskoki Ipanunga. I know a little bit of Creek language too, but not very much. But their word for thank you is mado, I should say, mado. And Cherokee's got our word. We got our word thank you from the Muskogee Creeks, from the Muskogee, the Creek people. And so our word for thank you is very close to their word. And when you say goodbye in Cherokee, you really don't, there's not a word for goodbye, but what we say is until we meet again, or something like that. And so what we generally say when there's more than one person, we'll say do da da go ha'i, do da da go ha'i. Sorry about that, I keep making mistakes, but that's what I would like to say to you. So wado do da da go ha'i nikada.